Hello, hello. Are we live? Alright, we're live and my mic is working. Pretty sure my chat is working too. You know what? Why not test it one more time? Just give me a second to see. Looks like it's there. Yep, we're good. Okay, welcome back to Advent of Syntran 2024, Day 6. So I caught a glimpse of the input for today. It looks like it might be a grid problem or possibly a graph problem disguised as a grid problem. So let's find out. Day 6. Download the input. I have to run that from the right directory where the script lives. And I should have my input now. So, looks like a grid problem. I've got hashes and dots. Let's check out the puzzle. Really haven't seen the puzzle yet. Watched like the first seconds of people streaming this, and then I left before I saw any spoilers. But I did get a glimpse in the input. Oh, there's a carrot somewhere. Is there anything else? Or is this not actually in the input? This is just marking the guard's route. So what the hell is going on here? A guard is patrolling the lab. We have to work out where the guard will go ahead of time. This might be kind of like the beam problem. Last year we had a problem where there were like forward slashes and back slashes, and a beam of light could hit them and then reflect in a certain way. That was a fun problem last year. So there's a current position. And then hashes are obstructions. So do I have current position? Okay, there's one on line 54. Roughly halfway through the file. Not exactly. I've got 130 lines of input here. And it's square, so it seems to be 130 by 130. Excuse me. So he's facing up or north. You know, he's walking in a two-dimensional plane. He's walking. He's not floating in space. So really it should be north, not up. Up would be like if he jumped out of the screen. But that wouldn't make any sense. But they just call it up. It's a bit of a misnaming in my opinion. 1518. Is this just like part of the plot? In the year 1518. Okay, some kind of reference to 2018 day 5. I don't know what that's about. I don't think I did 2018 day 5. Was that the int code year? I went back and I did all the int code problems, or most of the int code problems at least, but I didn't do every problem from that year. Okay, so you turn right. When you hit an obstruction, you turn right. Oh, we got a lady guard. It's very progressive for the year 1518. You go, 1518. Okay, so you turn right every time you hit something. I think you turn right before you hit it. Like you don't go on top of the hash and then turn right. You turn right just before this hash and then you go down so you end up here. So that's important to not be off by one. Eventually leaves the mapped area. Okay. So part 1, what do we just have to count the number of steps or figure out which position they leave? distinct positions. So we just have to count the number of positions that they visit, and if they visit a spot twice, it just counts as one. So that's easy enough to keep track of. Yeah, part 1 seems pretty straightforward. It's pretty reminiscent of other grid problems from previous years. And you don't have like weird beam splitting rules. I can't remember which day that was last year, but like depending on which angle of a reflector you hit, you would go in one direction or another. You don't have to have any logic like that here. It's just you always turn right. The thing you have to be careful with is, so this is a mirrored view, so that looks like it's turning left to you, but it's turning right to me. So this would be turning right. If you're going this way and then you turn right, then you're going that way. I can just encode my directions in that clockwise order, and then I can very easily turn right. Come on, Callie. You can't be up here. I'm sorry. Here's Callie. You want to purr for the microphone? There you go. You can be friends with Twitch. She doesn't like it when I stream. She especially doesn't like it when I stream every day, like I'm doing for Adventicode this month. Are we on day 6? She's getting tired of it. Okay, so I think I need the test input, which is this. What? She just knocked over a book that I had sitting on top of a desktop computer. So, I mean, it wasn't very stable, but it's just a book. It's not like it knocked over electronics or anything expensive. Be careful, Callie. I think I copied that. Okay. I keep getting new lines every time I paste, and I'm too lazy to figure out why. So this is 10 by 10. In general, you might have a non-square grid. I think everybody gets a square grid, but it's so easy to just generalize the size of the grid, so I think I will do that. I typically have a variable nx for the width and ny for the height. Like the number of positions in each respective dimension. So I should be able to run that input and load it. And that's that. So let's edit today. It's going to be day 6. What do you mean? Oh, that was, I did :B instead of :E. Okay. So this is my template. It just loads the input line by line and echoes that back. So we're going to count. We're going to count the lines, and we're going to count the number of characters in the other direction. It's file name, not file names. I have an array of file names for the test input and the real input, and then I toggle between them using this index, which I comment out to go to, or uncomment to go to the real input from the test input. So I want the file name from that array, not the plural file names. And then I want to get the number of Y positions too. That's going to be the length of the first string that we read from the file. So if I type that in the right order, it's going to be like that. And I think I have to cast one of these from a 64-bit integer to a 32. I think it's, yeah, I think I have to cast that one, but let me confirm that before I do anything unnecessarily. Yep, we've got a heterogeneous array element. That's not allowed in syntran. So I just have to cast that. Or I could cast x up, but it's a pretty safe assumption that we're always going to have less than 2 billion rows and columns of data. If you did, you would run out of RAM, so that would be a problem. I think casting a single integer would be the least of your concerns. Okay. I think we had another grid problem 2 or 3 days ago. I can't remember which day, but I treated that as an array of characters, not a vector of strings, and I want to do that again today. So about G for grid. They can be characters. You could encode things as integers. That would be totally valid. It might even perform better. Who knows? Maybe it's worse because this could be a multi-character string. So I don't know how well the memory is managed here. It might be a little bit wasteful. Or it might be better because if it's one character, it's 1 byte. But I think there's also like a size in a container. I don't really know how Fortran implements that, the host language of my interpreter here. So it's probably not that efficient. Come on, Callie. You can't be up there. You can't be on the desk. It's not allowed. So we allocate the grid, and then we load the grid character by character. So maybe I should have a way to cast from a string to a vector of characters, or a vector of strings of length 1. Because I do this a lot. I have to write a loop to do it. But maybe that should be something that's built in, or maybe I should just make a little helper function in my utils for it. Come on, Callie. Come on. You're misbehaving. You're not being good. Zero and X. I have these backwards. I mean, they're the same. It's a square grid, so it doesn't really matter. But if I'm going to generalize, I should at least generalize correctly. Callie, stop that. Stop that. I'm serious. Come on. Okay, I'll pick you up. Maybe I should hire a cat sitter while I stream. Maybe that's the best solution. It's expensive, but I think it would work. So G, I need some indices. It would probably make more sense to do this with a for loop, but I just wrote this, so let's roll with it. String X. So let me make sure I loaded that grid correctly. Okay, that's our grid. And we're going to want to find the caret. So I could just do this right here while I'm loading it, rather than writing another double loop. I think I need better variable names. So we have the grid, but we also have the guard. Okay, let's going to be the guard X and guard Y. You could have a vector for this. That might be better. And then just so I get delimiters, I'm going to put this in an array. Okay. 4, 6. Sounds right. Come on, Kelly. Can't do that. Give me 1 second. Okay, so do we start going up or north? They call it up. Facing up. And then we run into this hash, and then we turn right. Okay, yeah, so we start going up. All right. Now we're just going to rock and roll on this puzzle. So I need directions. Rather than copy and paste and then think about which order I have to put things in, I'm just going to write these directions from scratch. I have similar stuff to this in a lot of AOC problems. So we're going to have an array of directions. It's going to be 2 by 4. So I want the initial direction to be up. And I think I want my coordinate system to be y down because that's the order that I load the input in. So up is going to be 0, -1. And then I want to turn to the right for my next direction. So that would be positive x. X is still positive to the right. Only y has a funny positive convention. So that would be 1, 0. And I know I'm going to have negatives, so let me indent that. And then from going right, from going towards the right, which the camera is mirrored, so sorry about that. If you turn right, then you end up going down, which is positive y. And then we only have one more possibility left. That's -x. So the size of this array is 2 by the number of directions. You could call this the number of dimensions. That could also be a named constant rather than magic number. It's fine. I'll leave it like it is. So we're going to start out going up. So that's going to be direction 0, and this is direction 1, 2, 3. Every time we turn, we just increment our direction index. So that's how that's going to work. And that's why I listed these in this very specific order. For other days, I don't always list things in this order, but sometimes it helps to have a particular order to your directions. And today's one of those days. So, let's have a Boolean to keep track of if we're inside the grid. And we're going to iterate until the guard leaves the grid. And we're going to have a direction. So ID, the index of the direction, is going to be 0, which means up. So there are going to be two parts of this loop. We're going to walk in whichever direction we're walking. And then if we hit an obstacle, we're going to actually stop and go back one. Or maybe we'll predict if an obstacle is ahead of us. I'm not sure how I'll do that. And then turn right so increment the direction. So the first part is just walking in whichever direction we're going. So we can just do this. I don't think we're going to need the verbose variables anymore. We can just have X and Y. And I think these were local. That's local. And then, well, that wasn't local. That's unfortunate. So I don't want to redeclare that. So this is our initial position. And then we're going to increment those by the direction that we're currently going. So X plus equals, let's keep track of the previous position. That way, after we run into an obstacle, we can reset it to this. The other way is that you could just decrement whatever you incremented by, but it's going to be less verbose, I think, this way. So dirs 0 means X, and then ID is the direction that we're currently going. And then we also increment Y, and Y is at 1, not 0. So that should take us forward. Then we need to check if we hit an obstacle. So if we hit an obstacle, which is the hash character, then we're going to reset the position so that we're not on top of the hash. We want to be just next to the hash or below the hash or whichever direction we were in before. And then we turn right. So the direction is going to get incremented. And then let's take that mod 4 so that if we get to 4, we reset to 0. So we just wrap around this array. So after this, we increment it, and then it should take us back to 0, not to 4, because 4 would be out of bounds. So that should work, I think. And we also want to keep track of which places we've visited. That's going to be a Boolean array. It's going to start out as false. And then it's going to be nx by ny. And we want to count the first position. So I think we have to do that outside of the loop. Or we could do it. I'm going to have to set this eventually too. I just realized that. Do we have to do this outside the loop? I think we can just put it at the top of the loop. And then we don't have to do anything special for the resetting that happens on these two lines. Now, Callie, come on. Come on. Come on. No stream interrupting. I'll feed you dinner later, okay? No interrupting. So I need to... I can't think with this cat jumping on my desk constantly. Callie, come on. You're not allowed to be up here. You're not authorized for this. Come on. No. Stay off the keyboard. Come on. What am I doing? So we're marking the visited positions. I think that's okay. Now I have to keep track if I'm inside. So x greater than 0 and x less than greater than or equal to 0. And then less than nx, and similar for y. And then sum is just the count of the visited positions. That might be it. I probably got some kind of issue here. Right, so we want g x y, not a whole array. 41, I think that was correct. And now it's time for the real input. I've got a good feeling about this. Wonder what's going to happen in part 2. Hopefully it's not too bad. 5208. Okay, that was not much of a problem. We're gonna like start in every possible position. Callie, come on. Come on. Come on. Okay, well, it came to that. I had to kick her out and close the door. She's not going to be happy about that. Oh. We have to figure out where to put the obstruction. Oh. So the guard always starts in the same place. That's a constant. I think you just brute force this. I don't know if there's much that you can do to optimize this. Maybe dynamic programming. But like you're changing the input. I think was it the beam problem last year, which I've been talking about? I think part 2 of that had a possible optimization, which I don't think I used, where you could use dynamic programming or like remember how your state changes and which states you've seen before. But because this is changing the input, I don't know if it's possible here. I think we just brute force this. Okay. Let's clean up part 1. That should be less verbose. Okay. Now let's copy that to become part 2. and call it. And then this should just run part 1 twice, but call it part 2. All right, now we iterate. So it's just putting another loop on top of what we've already done, and we're going to try putting an obstacle in every possible place. Okay. I don't think I'm even going to bother making a function. I'm just going to add another loop on top of what we did. So we load the file, that part doesn't change. And we're going to put our loop around here. And we don't care about what's been visited. What we care about is the number of good obstruction locations, or bad obstruction locations, depending on whose perspective you're looking at it from, us or the guard. I don't know if we're on the same team as the guard or not. I didn't really read the plot. We can compact this. It doesn't need to be so many lines. Sometimes I get carried away and use these compound assignment operators, but would it just be simpler if we did it the old-fashioned way? Then you can do both operations in one line, so it's almost better that way. I don't know. Don't have visited. I kind of want to make sure that that modulo change wasn't significant. Okay, so we have this. Let's yank that to back it up. Undo, undo. And then make sure that this is safe. I could have just put that in part 1. That would have been easier. 5208, okay. So I'm actually going to put that in part 1. Now I can actually delete this stuff. And we don't need quite as many lines of code there. Okay, now we're just going to put all this in a loop from here to there, basically. Or we're going to put it in a double loop. Oh, we do need to keep track of... Do we need to keep track of what we visited? What do these loops look like? Because we don't want to go in infinite loop. Oh, what is happening here? So we start here, we go up. Why do we turn right there? Oh, O is the obstruction. I was thinking O was the initial guard location. So I think we need something like visited. But instead of an array, doing a lot of undoing and redoing and undoing and redoing again here. So instead of an array of booleans, we want to keep track of which direction we were facing when we were here. So this is going to be an integer now. Maybe -1, actually, because we haven't been here at all. And 0 is a valid direction. So I don't want to initialize that to 0. Then it looks like we've already been everywhere. So we're going to set that to the direction that we're facing. And then if we get to a spot where we've already been here and we've already been facing the same direction that we were there last time, then we know that we're in a loop and we can break out of this. And then we can, note that that's a good or bad obstruction location. Inside and not looping. And then we can do it at the end. Looping happens if we visited this place. It has to be at the top of the loop because this bound check might fail. You could put it at the end of the loop, but you would need an if statement. So if I put it at the top, I don't need any conditions. I can just set it regardless. XY equals ID. So if we've been at this position facing this direction before, we're in a loop. And then we're going to do one more iteration, but then we'll exit after that. And finally, we need a double loop to iterate over all possible obstruction locations. A couple days ago, I forgot to do anything with my sum, and then I was getting all zeros. I was like, why is this not working? Oh, I forgot to... I initialized my sum to 0, and then I forgot to add anything to it. So, don't do that. Yeah, so we want to keep track of the original visited state, and we want to keep track of the obstructions. Or it could just change this one line. So this is reset every time. So I think I can just change this one line. Or on the obstruction. I think I need parentheses. Parentheses at least help clarity for the order of operations with these logical operations. And once we exit this loop, if looping sum plus 1. Is that it? Am I on the test input? I want to go back to the test input. Let's see what happens. Probably won't. I've probably got syntax errors. Ooh, I've got a sig fault. First of all, this is day 6. Okay, where could I possibly have a sig fault? Negative. I'm not like assigning this to a Boolean or anything dumb. The direction gets reset. That's good on every one of these loop iterations. What could be segfaulting? Stack trace shouldn't really tell me anything. The stack trace mentions subroutines in the interpreter, so that's not helpful. What did I do? Oh, I need a bounds check here. Yeah. So this should be up here. And then it's kind of redundant because we already have it in the loop condition. But if not inside break. So this might be terrible depending on your input, but so that was part one. For part two, we're now fixing it because suddenly it's causing a crash. I guess for part one, I don't know why that worked. Okay, we got 6. That's good. I think that's the expected answer. All right. Now, hopefully it's not too slow on the real input. I don't really think there's much optimization you can do here. Or maybe there is. How long is this going to take? This input is like size 130. Maybe I'm not detecting loops correctly. Maybe I'm in an infinite loop, but I just don't abort. All right, let's see what's happening. So let's print the outer loop. It's just slow as hell. What is the size of the input? I think it's 130. Might be in an infinite loop. It's chugging along, not super fast, but it was moving at a point that it would have finished if my input is 130, I think. Yeah, it's 130 by 130. So apparently we're in an infinite loop. Maybe I should just let that run while I think. So what is wrong with my loop check? Maybe I should look at the other loops. So I looked at that one. How about the first 5? This one's just a rectangle. So we're going up. So like we might not detect the loop on a corner, but by the time we get back here to an edge at least, that should detect a loop. Because we've been here and we've been here going in that direction. When you get to a corner and you turn, so it's like which direction were you facing when you were there, it's not really well defined. But certainly I should at least detect it by the time I hit an edge. And this, it's not a simple rectangle, it's like 2 rectangles. Can you get all corners? Can you be boxed in where you're just looping over 4 positions? I suppose if you start out already inside it, that could happen. Is my input like that? Like it wouldn't happen on row 4. I wish I could zoom out. I can do that in the web. So I'm not really boxed in. I would need at least like, you could have a box of 1, or maybe you could have a box of 4. Either way, you would need more hashes around me than I currently have hashes around me. And then is there any other way that you could get boxed in from a position that you don't start in? Yeah, I guess there might be something wrong with this loop check. We might want to do it again after we increment the, but we just reset it here. Go to day 6. I'm going to do this in the other split pane. Look at this log. We're still making progress. It's just logging a lot. And I think progress might have stopped now. Yeah, we're not going past OY67. Yeah, we're okay. That's interesting. We're flip-flopping between 5 and 4. Okay, so my visited state is not quite correct. And instead of a 2-dimensional array of integers, I think I need a rank 3 array of booleans. Because we've been on this spot facing 3 different directions. So I need to keep track of all 3 directions in another rank of my array. I think that should work. Okay, so scrap this idea. Visited is not going to be that. It's going to be booleans again. False, then nx by ny by 4. I'd rather not have a magic number there, but let's just roll with it. That's the number of directions. Oh, wait. I already have a parameter for that. Okay. And then we can do that. And then visited ID equals true. So I don't know, is this dynamic programming? We're like keeping track of states that we've seen before or states that we've visited. I don't think so. I think this is not quite advanced enough to be considered dynamic programming, but the idea of a visited state is somewhat related to dynamic programming. And I think maybe a year or two ago, I think I probably would have had more trouble with today, but I've seen this trick before where you just have to add another rank to your array with keeping track of the direction. I'm pretty sure I got stuck on that really badly on one day last year, and I could not figure it out until I watched somebody else's stream or I looked at somebody else's solution, and I was like, oh, I just needed one more rank on my array. I think I don't want to log so much. So how many lines? I have like 3.5 million lines in this log, or 5 million after I went in an infinite loop a bunch of times. Doesn't look like I'm in the same infinite loop. Maybe I'm in a different infinite loop. Yeah, okay. So what is OY? We're still making progress on OY. I think I can kill some of that logging because just the logging slows it down. Let's keep that one because that's like a very coarse, granular level of logging. Just want to remove the logging from all the inner loops because those get executed a lot of times. Okay. So we got stuck on 4 before. Now we keep going. That wasn't too bad. It's not super fast, but this is going to finish within a minute or two. I probably should have ran this on the test input again. It's too late for that. We're like a quarter or a fifth of the way through at least. Out of 130. Yeah, we're like a third of the way through now. So I'm just going to let it run. Because I had the test input correct, and then I realized that my visited state was not implemented the right way, so then I changed all of that, and I haven't rerun the test input. So I'm a little bit nervous about that, but it's a good sign that we're not stuck in an infinite loop yet. Almost done. 130, only 10 more, less than 10 to go. I'm just going to roll with it. I've got a good feeling. Okay, not too bad. A little tricky, but I got that done a lot faster than yesterday. And in about the same time as day 4, I think. Day 4 was just over an hour for me. Yeah. I'm going to end the stream soon. I think I'm going to stream again at midnight. So about 5 hours or just under 5 hours from now. So I kind of want to conserve energy and not really getting a lot of viewership on Friday night. That's okay. People have other things to do. So, yeah. I'm going to want to commit, and we'll see if there's anything. I don't think I'm going to optimize anything. Like I said, I want to conserve energy for a potential second stream today. It's technically the next day of Advent of Code, but going from 7 p.m. to midnight, it just feels like the same day for me. So I think I'm going to take a quick break, maybe give my cat a treat, and then get another drink, and then I'll be back. All right. How long did that take to run? Like a minute or two? That was my guess. A little under 2 minutes. Not great, not terrible. Yeah, I wonder how you would optimize this. Callie, come on. I'm almost done here. You're stepping on my phone. You almost knocked it off my desk. Hey, no, stay off the keyboard. You can't go on the keyboard. You're not authorized. You're not in the suitors list. No, no. Come on. Come on. I could at least clean up logging, and I don't think I really want to run this again. So I'm really nervous about making changes, even superficial changes, when I know I have a correct answer. I don't want to like accidentally break something. Come on, Callie, come on. But I think I can remove logging safely. And that's the only one. Can I at least get the test input correct? And then I want to make sure I undo that. That crashes. Seriously? Oh, I think part one might be crashing, and this might not be deterministic. Or maybe it is. Is this? Yeah, I think it's part one because it's not printing the part one answer. So, where did I say it's dangerous? I don't like this where I duplicate the loop condition. You have it there, and then again here you break, but it's basically the same condition. So I like to make it explicit that this is an infinite loop, and then you know that there has to be a break inside. If you don't have that, then like a reader of this code might be surprised that there's a break here. But if I have true, it's like they know there's going to be a break. Okay. That was right for the test input. Can I get part one, 5208? I don't think I'm going to wait for part two to finish, but 5208 was correct for the first part. And then I want to note down my expected answer. Maybe I'll just let that run in the background. Is there anything else I wanted to change? It would be nice if I could optimize this somehow. I don't really know how you would do that, because like the input is changing on every time you move the obstruction. It's like you're changing the input. So I don't know how you would like cache things in between obstruction changes. If you had something where the obstructions were in the same place every time, but the guard was starting at a different initial location, then you could be like, well, I know if you get to this state, you're going to end up in some other state next. But because the map is changing, the map of where the obstructions are, I don't know how you can make any optimization. There must be something, because it shouldn't take this long to run, even in a poorly implemented scripting language. Maybe I should make this an infinite loop too, but I'm like nervous about changing anything when I know I have a right answer. 1972. Yep, that was what I submitted. And I want to conserve brain power for day 7 in 4.5 hours. So I don't think I'm going to mess with this. Don't need to commit a 5 million long log file. Oh, it's actually empty now. Well, I just deleted it, of course. I can't undo that. In Vim, I used to be able to undo past file deletions. In NeoVim, I can't do that. Like, I deleted the file, and now I can't undo to get back what I was seeing. I kind of liked that about Vim, classic Vim. Let me make sure that pushed. Okay. Let's make sure there's code in there. Why is there code? Stupid smelly nerds. Just give me the answer. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not actually going to raid anybody because it's kind of embarrassing to raid someone when you're like, I'm my only viewer. Yeah. Otherwise, if I had a positive number of viewers other than myself, I would raid. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. Thanks to anybody who's watching this in the future, and I will catch you next time. Bye.